Alright, given that Sony's state of play that just happened was pretty disappointing, even though, let's be real, GTA 6, Ghost of Yotei, Wolverine, those were never going to be shown there, I thought I'd talk about Battlefield, because recently we saw a little glimpse of the new Battlefield game being released later this year, and given that it's most likely looking like a whole reset for the franchise, I'm really excited. Remember not to pre-order, remember what happened with 2042, but I can't lie, it does look promising, and I am looking forward to playing Battlefield this year. Now, personally, my history with Battlefield doesn't go back that far. I only really got into the games probably after the pandemic. Growing up, I did play Bad Company and Bad Company 2. I never got into Battlefield 3, never got into Battlefield 4. And with Bad Company 1 and 2, I would really only play the campaigns over and over again because I just love them. I thought those games, I still think, I should say, those games are hilarious. And I think they have some of the just best campaigns that I've probably ever played in a first-person shooter because they're funny and they're just honestly a really good time, and the gameplay is so fun and timeless in my opinion, because a lot of people would tell you that Bad Company 2 to this day has some of the best, if not the best, destruction in all of the Battlefield series. Now, with that being said, this new teaser that we got for this new Battlefield, in my opinion, looks pretty good. Now, obviously, a lot of people are going to tell you, and I would agree, and I'm going to be the first one to tell you, don't pre-order, definitely hold off, wait on pre-ordering this shit, because we all saw what happened with 2042. We were there for it. If you weren't there for it, look it up on YouTube. You can see the whole story of 2042, man. It was bad. The game came out in 2021. It was shit when it first came out. Anybody who tells you otherwise is lying, or they were probably paid by EA or DICE, because that shit was awful when it first came out. That game took so long to finally get to a point where, even to this day, they've made so many improvements and changes to 2042, and I'll definitely give credit where credit is due, but still, the game doesn't feel like a genuinely authentic or just authentically great Battlefield game. It just feels like a good game now. And yeah, that's great that they made it a good game. Arguably, some people would say a great game. That's all, well and good. If you're having fun with 2042, by all means, go ahead. But the game still isn't a good Battlefield game. And you could argue that because the fact that it has things like the Specialist, the fact that there's no destruction, the fact that, it still doesn't have the widest weapon variety or selection, compared to other Battlefields, the fact that the maps still aren't on par with other Battlefield games in design and in scope and scale. There's so many things that we can point to why Battlefield 2042 still isn't a really good Battlefield game, regardless of how good it is now as just, a standalone first-person shooter game. Now, with that being said, this new Battlefield game, the first thing that stood out to me in this little snippet of gameplay that we got in this teaser is the setting. I think a lot of people would tell you that it's not rocket science to make a new Battlefield game that's really going to be successful, and with the Battlefield Labs thing that they announced at the end of the teaser trailer, where you can actually sign up to not even be guaranteed a spot in the beta, but Battlefield Labs, they opened up signups for that so you could have a chance to play the beta, and I think there was something over 1 million signups for that. So it's obvious, it's clear that Battlefield can still generate a lot of hype, and I think that's really good because this game, it does seem like this is going to be a reset for the franchise, given the fact that it does look like it's going back to Battlefield's roots a little bit, with this setting being, it looks like it's somewhere between Battlefield 3 and Battlefield 4, a modern warfare type setting, and I think that's what a lot of people have been wanting for so long now, myself included, because Battlefield 4 is probably my favorite Battlefield. It's the one that really got me into the series, really hooked me in with it, and that's the game that I probably have the most time into. And I think a lot of people would tell you that to have a really great Battlefield game now, you really don't have to do a lot. Just give us a setting that's in between 3 and 4, which this looks like it's having. Give us immersion on the level of Battlefield 1, because a lot of people would tell you that Battlefield 1 has arguably the best immersion and just cinematic presentation and level of, the entire franchise. And a lot of people would say give us movement mechanics that are or similar to Battlefield 5, because Battlefield 5 has the diving and the leaning back and the crouching and the proning and all that stuff. If you haven't played Battlefield 5, I highly recommend it, because the movement in that game makes it so much fun, apart from it just being already a pretty good Battlefield game in my opinion. And that's what sucks too about games like Battlefield 1, or not Battlefield 1, I'm sorry, Battlefield 5 at least, because that game, when it first came out, it had a really bad reputation, and it was definitely warranted for sure for various reasons back then. But you look back now, man, and so many people agree that they were just too harsh on Battlefield 5, especially when you look at how that game is compared to 2042. But with this game, I definitely think that it looks promising, and I definitely think that hopefully EA and DICE have listened, and I know, man, that's been like the story of your life for so many Battlefield fans out there. Has just been saying the same shit every time. Hopefully EA and DICE have listened this time. Hopefully they'll make some changes. Hopefully they'll improve the way that this Battlefield game is. But honestly, man, I'm still going to say don't hold your breath. As promising as this looks, as much as, I'm excited to see a potential reset in this franchise, having it go back to its roots, I still think that if they're not going to nail basic shit like having a server browser, having no specialists, get rid of that bullshit. Give us the traditional Battlefield class system back. A decent, and if not really good or great weapon selection and variety at launch, vehicle selection too. If they're not going to do that at launch, if they're not going to have those basic things met at launch, I really think it's going to be a hard time. Hopefully not, right? I don't want that. I want this game to be as successful as possible. I'm excited to play this. Don't think that I'm not. But I'm just keeping it real. I honestly think that if they can meet those basic expectations going into launch, or at least let's say no later than 3 to 4 months after launch, it could be a really hard time to, really make this a successful Battlefield game again. And of course, again, I have to say it, I don't want that to happen. I want to see a successful Battlefield game. I want to see, like a generational run from DICE, man. We need that shit, okay? I think so many Battlefield fans out there need to see another generational run from DICE. I'm talking a complete game at launch, or if it's not going to be complete because this is still EA we're dealing with, as close to complete as it can be at launch. Give us a server browser, give us the traditional Battlefield class system back, give us immersion on the level of Battlefield 1, give us movement that's as fun as Battlefield 5, or something that maybe even evolves that system. Now, when it comes to gameplay of this new Battlefield game, one of the things that I've been seeing people talk about the most is the potential of levolution, or like destructibility, because if you see in the snippet, there is a little part that, I don't know if this is scripted. If it's not scripted and this just happened naturally, I think that's sick, but you can see that this dude like blows up the building, and I think that's really cool. And of course, I would love to see Levolution back personally, because Battlefield 4, like I said, it's probably my favorite Battlefield. So I don't know how you personally feel about Levolution. It's something that I know when Battlefield 4 first came out, that was probably the most like divisive topic of discussion with Battlefield 4 was Levolution, because a lot of people loved it and a lot of people hated it and didn't want it to ever come back. Personally, I think a really good middle ground would be some sort of hybrid system where we have maybe destructibility in certain parts of the map where you can just blow up walls and blow up buildings like Bad Company 2, and maybe another part of the map that has Levolution. If we could have both of those be in the game somehow, some way where it's just balanced and it works out on every map, I think that would be amazing. I think that would really add to the immersion and also just the dynamic of the game, because if you think about it, at least with Battlefield 4, because that's really the only game that has something like Levolution, certain maps, it does change the dynamic of the way that the match ends up playing, because you have the map change with that Levolution. Certain lanes are closed off, other lanes are opened up. It changes the way that the game can play, the way that the match ends up flowing and ends up turning out. So I think something like that in the new Battlefield game, where they could maybe put Levolution and mix it in with that destructibility, that could be really cool. I think that could be something that a lot of people would love to see and would appreciate to see. But apart from that, man, I think weapon selection is key. I think that's crucial. I think we need to see a decent amount, if not a really good amount of weapons at launch. Same goes with the vehicles. And when it comes to the vehicles and how they play, a lot of people would tell you and they'd argue that Battlefield 4 has the best vehicle play out of the whole series. I'm not going to argue that, because I agree with that. And I think if they could bring that back and just evolve it for this new Battlefield game, I think a lot of people would be happy with that, and I don't think I personally would complain. And of course, the crucial stuff, the essentials, server browser. I'm not going to stop mentioning this, but a traditional Battlefield class system, no more specialists. And I think that, coupled with just great maps, hopefully, I know that's really a shot in the dark, hoping for great maps in a new Battlefield game. But hey, we can dream, you know what I mean? And I'm hyped for this. I know that it's really probably not advisable to get too hyped for this, because again, we're still dealing with EA. This is still DICE you're talking about, and again, I'm going to tell you don't hold your breath, but I'd also be lying to you if I told you that I'm not hyped at all, because I've really been looking forward to a new Battlefield game since 2042, and I haven't touched 2042 in over a year, and I uninstalled it a long ass time ago. I'm not going back to that shit anytime soon, so in the meantime, I'm going to keep playing Battlefield 1, Battlefield 5, Battlefield 4, And I'm going to be cautiously optimistic for this new Battlefield. Now, I don't think they're going to call it Battlefield 6. The ongoing rumor again is that it's just going to be called Battlefield. And I think that's cool because having a reset for this franchise, I think is genuinely a step in the right direction. I think it's a smart decision. And all I can do now is just cross my fingers and hope for the best. Now, with all that being said, let me know what your thoughts are on Battlefield. Did you actually enjoy Battlefield 2042, and are you still playing it? And if you are, what's it like these days? Is it still alive? Are there still, like, you know, content updates for it? Because I think, didn't they stop a while ago? But I don't know. I haven't played it. I don't plan to. I guess I'm just curious. Let me know what you think about it. Let me know if you're hyped for this new Battlefield game. And let me know what you think about Battlefield 4, 5, 1, 3, Bad Company 1, 2, all those. With all that being said, my name's Nico. Thank you so much to all of you for watching. And I'll see all of you in the next one.